Hey, how you peeps doing? Well, I am kind of still trying to bounce back from a couple of snafus. A couple of my Kaiju Trifecta did not upload with audio, and so I'm having to do a couple of redos. I just did Godzilla versus Biollante. I think somehow miraculously the second version was far better than the first version. So we're going to try to keep that ball rolling with the other one, with the other redo I had to do, which was for 1966's War of the Gargantuas. Okay, so this was a collaboration. There were other ones between Toho and the American producer Henry G. Saperstein. Uh, this film stars a lot of the kind of heavy hitters of the Toho monster movies. Kenji Sahara is in here. The beautiful Kumi Mizuno is in here, and on Us Americans, for Us Americans, Russ Tamblyn. Fresh off his performance of West Side Story. Well, not necessarily fresh, but very close to it. A few years later, number of years later. So yeah, that you had, but oh, you also had the American singer Kip Hamilton, who I don't know, must have been Henry G. Saperstein's mistress or something. I don't know, but she does this little performance singing this song that everybody remembers, usually because they're all wanting to tear their faces off while they're listening to it. Is the words get stuck in my throat? The words get stuck in my throat. And on offer, Devo did a really great cover of it, and you need to look it up because it kicks ass. Bougie Boy sings it. It's the bomb. Just trust me on that one. Um, this packed a wallop. This was, I don't know, just a lot of people. It's none of the marquee kaiju that you're used to seeing from Toho, but they came up with a couple of new ones. This is technically, although depending on the dub or the version you see, it's kind of a loose sequel to a previous effort, which is Frankenstein Conquers the World. And this is supposedly under the whole thing, just, the boy that they try to rescue who turns out to be Frankenstein. Uh, Basically, at the end, he vanquishes Baragon and he just submerges below the earth. And it's like, what's going to happen to him? And they say, well, Frankenstein can never really die. And, in keeping with that, you basically find out that this almost kind of links to kind of a future movie. It kind of links to the Godzilla Heisei series because, his cells get scraped off onto buildings and then they get used for all kinds of things by all kinds of parties. With this, it's kind of like a little bit of skin accidentally scrapes off Frankenstein in his travels, and some of it ends up in the Himalayas, and some of it ends up in the waterways. And so you end up with these two Frankenstein Jr. type characters, big hairy behemoths. They kind of run around. They look like big hairy kind of Halloween linebackers or something. But the one that grows up in the Himalayas is a big hairy brown guy who is called Sanda. Not every version gives that to you, but in, I guess, official lore, the monster is called Sanda. And Sanda is brought up by Russ Tamblyn and his beautiful assistant. in this lab, and it's kind of a weird curiosity that they find, and then eventually one day he just kind of blows the lab and takes off, and no one knows whatever happened to him. But he's just kind of a nice, cuddly little teddy bear of a creature until he grows up, and then he's a big, cuddly teddy bear of a creature. The other creature, the water creature, the water gargantua, as it were, uh, ends up swimming out to sea or whatever these little microbes do, and becomes this big green monster that lives underwater and kills anything he runs in contact with, and that includes fishermen and people in a boat. There's a kind of fun sequence at the beginning where this little craft that's out overnight gets attacked by this giant octopus. If that weren't bad enough, the giant octopus runs afoul of the green gargantua, who we know as Gyra, and Gyra has the octopus for lunch, and then has most of the people on that boat for lunch. And this is very different from a lot of Toho offerings. It's no illusion. The monster is running around killing people and eating them. And as it goes further, you see more and more of that. And so there is more and more stuff in the news about this big green monster that's being seen by islanders who are out fishing, or they're falling off their boats and dying, or they're getting eaten, or they're just people are seeing this monster, coming up with sketches of this monster. And people are kind of starting to kind of low-key panic, like, what is this thing? What's going on here? And they consult the doctor, Dr. Russ Tamblyn, and he's like, well, we had this one monster, this one little gargantua, or this little Frankenstein or whatever, and he was nice. Yeah, he was a nice little guy, and he and Kumi Mizuno were very worried that this big green man-eater is going to, somehow everyone's going to be against it and they're going to want to attack it. And it's like, this is our little Santa. No, it's not your little Santa. Rest assured. But as it progresses, Gyra comes out on land and attacks an airport. And he runs rampant, just tearing up this airport. And he finds this one lady who's in the control tower, grabs her, chomps her up, spits out her clothes. I guess that's the kind of like the shell of the human, pistachio nut or whatever. Spits out the clothes, and it's pretty gruesome to look at, for what it is in its standards. And it's like, and you get and when I was a little kid, it was like there was some impact behind that. I was like, oh man, he ate that girl. Whoa, I've never seen that before. That was creepy. It was creepy seeing that girl get eaten. And God, that was awful. What must have that have felt like? Probably not very good. And so, just say what you want. When you're 8 or 9, it kind of nails you. And eventually the army kind of gets going with a bunch of little toy tanks and maser cannons and whatnot. They go up to the mountains and chase a guy around and fire beams at him and hurt him real bad and all that. And then you hear this big bellowing roar, and Santa shows up, and he's a big hulking monster now. And he sees this poor green brother of his, and he's just like, oh, I know you, you're like me, and rescues him. and hightails it out into the forest, and no one can find them, and they're searching via helicopters and all this stuff, and no one can find them. Well, the doctor, and I'm trying to think of Mizumi's name, is it Akemi or something like that, but they go into the forest. There are a bunch of campers out there having a good time, and they go out there looking for looking for them, and looking for Santa. And you see Gyra going on a rampage. You see Santa in the water. Santa rescues her, and he apparently seems to remember her, and he's kind of like the big cuddly puppy dog you always knew he was. And he saves her, and they make it out of there. But but a lot of these other campers and hikers and whatnot have gotten wasted. Santa's having them all for lunch, or not Santa, Gyra's having them all for lunch, and Santa kind of walks over to the clearing where Gyra's just sitting there nursing his full tummy or whatever, and looks at all the campers' clothes lying around, and he knows exactly what's going on, and he's ripped. And so he grabs a tree and starts beating Gyra with it. He's like, "These little guys are humans. They're my friends." Whap, whap, whap. And so they're enemies now. And so Santa and Gyra are now tearing across the countryside, brawling as they go. And eventually, of course, they make it to the city. And there's just a scene where the two main leads are running around Tokyo. They're trying to save Santa, but they end up running into Gyra, so they duck down into the subway And one of the more interesting set pieces of the whole thing is these two in the subway trying to run away from Gyra, and no matter where they go, there's an entrance where Gyra's peeping in. He sees them and he reaches for them. They run further into the subway. Then they pop up at this other entrance. They say, "Okay, maybe we can get going out here." Nope, he's there too. He's following them no matter where they go, and that's a pretty good, pretty creepy set piece. The movie kind of just crumbles down to sort of an anticlimax, but on the whole, it's fun and it's worth seeing. Anyway, we're the Gargantuas, folks. Yeah, thumbs up.